You know, we are absolutely swimming in data these days. We've got charts, we've got graphs, we have all these numbers that scream what is happening. But they often just whisper the most important part, the why. So today, we're going to turn up the volume on that whisper. We're diving deep into the world of qualitative research to find the real stories hidden behind the stats.
So let's make this real for a second. Picture a company, okay? They're staring at their sales figures. The numbers are great, they show what they sold. But what those numbers can't tell them is why one person absolutely loved the product and bought it instantly, while another person just walked away. See? That's the missing half of the story.
Just look at this team. They've got the what right there on the table. All the charts and graphs, but the real insight, the game-changing why, well, it isn't in the ink on the page. No, it's hidden in the actual experiences of their customers. And to find that, you got to step away from the spreadsheet and just start listening to people.
And that brings us to the core idea here, qualitative data. We're not talking about numbers. We're talking about all the messy human stuff, the stories, the opinions, the frustrations, and the little moments of joy that actually give those numbers their meaning. It is the why behind the what.
Okay, so if the goal is to find these amazing stories, where do you even begin? Let's follow a researcher on her mission to figure this all out. First up, how to gather stories.
So here's the challenge for our researcher. The company has a new product, but the sales numbers are, well, they're confusing. She knows she needs to talk to real people to get to the bottom of the why. But who? Who exactly holds the keys to unlocking this puzzle?
Obviously she can't talk to every single customer. That would be completely impossible, right? So what she needs is a smart strategy, a plan to pick a smaller but really insightful group. And in the world of research, this is called sampling.
And notice how targeted these methods are. She's not just picking names out of a hat. With purposive sampling, she might decide to handpick, say, the first 100 people who bought the product. With snowball sampling, she could find one superfan and then ask them, hey, who else should I talk to? Which is a great way to tap into a community. Or she could try typical case sampling and find someone who represents the most average, everyday customer, just to understand that core experience.
All right, so our researcher is on a roll. She knows who she needs to talk to, so the very next question is, how? How is she actually going to gather their stories?
Well, she's got a few really good options. If she's just starting out and exploring a totally new idea, an unstructured interview, which is basically just a casual chat, is perfect. Now, if she has a list of topics she has to cover, but still wants the freedom to see where the conversation goes, a semi-structured interview is her best bet. And if she needs to easily compare answers from a whole bunch of people, a structured interview, which is almost like a verbal survey, gives her that really useful consistency.
Okay, so after weeks of these amazing, insightful conversations, our researcher is now left with a mountain of notes and recordings. Now the real detective work begins. It's time to make sense of all these clues.
Just imagine it. She's got pages of interview transcripts, scribbled notes, maybe even audio recordings. It's this huge jumble of rich, detailed stories. So the challenge now isn't about getting more data, it's about finding the hidden patterns inside the data she already has. Now to tackle this, she's going to use a really powerful method called thematic analysis. Think of it like a systematic way to hunt for patterns or themes that pop up again and again across all those different stories. It's a process that brings some real order to the chaos of qualitative data. So how does this actually work? Let's look at just one single quote from an interview. It says, "I love the sleek design, but honestly, the initial setup was a nightmare. I almost gave up." Did you catch that? There are two totally conflicting ideas packed into just one sentence.
So the very first step is called coding. Our researcher literally goes through her notes, highlights key phrases, and gives them a short label, or a code. So for that quote we just saw, sleek design might get the code positive aesthetics, while setup was a nightmare gets coded as setup difficulty. Simple as that. So after she's coded all of her interviews, she moves on to the really cool part, finding themes. She starts grouping similar codes together. For example, codes like setup difficulty, confusing instructions, and called support all point to this bigger theme of setup frustration. And at the same time, codes like sleek design and looks great combine into a theme of appreciation for aesthetics. All of a sudden, a much clearer picture starts to emerge from all those individual comments. Okay, so at this point, you might be thinking, hold on a second. Isn't this all just one person's interpretation? And that is a great question.
It brings us to a super important part of the process: how we know it's trustworthy.
This is the big question, isn't it? How can we be sure that these themes and insights aren't just the researcher's own personal opinion or bias creeping in? How can we actually trust the results?
Well, to answer that, we have to kind of shift our thinking. In the world of numbers, quantitative research, reliability means you can repeat an experiment and get the exact same results. But when you're dealing with human stories, we aim for something called dependability. See, the goal isn't to get the exact same interview twice. Instead, we ask, was the process clear and logical? Could another researcher look at the notes and understand exactly how you got to your conclusions? That's the key.
These ideas are often summed up as the 4 pillars of trustworthiness. Credibility is all about checking back with the people you interviewed. Do the findings seem true to them? Transferability asks if these insights might be useful in a different situation. We've talked about dependability, which is all about having a clear, transparent process. And finally, confirmability, which makes sure the findings are tied directly to what people said, the quotes, the observations, and not just the researcher's own theories.
So, by making sure her work checks all these boxes, our researcher can be really confident in her findings. And now, it's time to deliver the answers she was looking for from the very beginning. Our final section, uncovering the why.
She gathered the stories, she found the patterns, she made sure her work was totally solid. So, after everything, what did our researcher actually tell the company about their new product?
Well, she didn't just give them another spreadsheet, she gave them a roadmap. The insights were crystal clear. First, people love how the product looks. It's a huge selling point. But second, the setup process is an absolute nightmare, and it's causing a lot of potential customers to just give up. So her final recommendation was simple but powerful. Keep marketing the beautiful design, but you have to urgently fix that frustrating setup experience. And that's the ultimate value, right there. This research didn't just give them a few interesting stories, it gave them clear, strategic direction. It turned a big question mark on a spreadsheet into a compass that pointed the way forward.
So always remember this. Numbers are great at telling you what happened, but it's the stories that tell you why it mattered. The richest insights are almost always hiding just beneath the surface of the data. And the only question is, what stories are waiting to be uncovered in your world?